the Southern Berkshire Public Health Coalition
Collaborative
coalition, that's a C word, to order. We have a quorum and I look forward to having an expeditious meeting. I have a hard stop at 10:30, so with an 11 o'clock meeting elsewhere. Review and approve administrative items. What are those?
Minutes.
Oh,
of
the
November
minutes.
18th.
All right. Minutes, said it does say minutes, wow. Are there any comments on those minutes? Jim sent them out in advance.
It didn't note that it was my birthday. But
Oh.
I will
You'll-
forego having.
I'll let the record.
You're right.
Okay, great. Any other comment, serious or not?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. At seconds. I'll second it.
Oh, I'll second, sorry.
Okay. Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of November 18, 2022. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition or abstention? Seeing, hearing none. Thank you. And thank you, Jane, for your work on them. Always very good. The next item is the quarterly report. We did move the nursing information up so that we would get to it. So Jill, please take over.
Yes, so I've included is the the second quarter of the fiscal year, so October to December, for all communicable diseases. And so yeah, that's black and white right there. As for the blood pressure clinics, I'm starting up Monterey next Thursday. I reached out to them, had them all squared away. We didn't have Otis, Alford, or New Marlboro as part of our blood pressure clinics. I reached out to Otis. I'm going to start seeing them actually the last Wednesday of this month, and I'm going to talk to Thea Basis today and see if Alford's interested. Probably yes. Amy had noted on our spreadsheet that Southern Berkshire Ambulance was going to do that, and that never came to fruition. And then New Marlboro, I reached out to them, and I'm putting together an email for Prudence, just present to the select board. I may or may not go to the select board meeting. They're interested. They were having the visiting nurse at one point, but they haven't.
The attendance seems to be quite low at these, right?
Yeah, I just let Heat and Court know that they need to have 5 people signed up ahead of time, because they have there's 2 people and one of them is somebody that works there.
Right.
So I'm thinking once, I don't know if Stockbridge has a council on aging director yet. I'm possibly going to reach out to whoever that person is and see if maybe move it there when they start to function again.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's a possibility. I go to Great Barrington next week. And the senior center there, I have 0 to maybe 2 people. So I'm going to give them one more chance this month, and then it'll be 5 people need to sign up in advance.
Right.
But
I mean, I think that's, you don't want to threaten, but
no,
it's a
but
time and resource.
Yeah.
A point on your half.
Right.
And especially now when we're down to 1 nurse.
right. Yeah. I am gonna, yesterday I went to Sheffield. That was a good little turnout for the second time being there. And I left some wellness stuff like, it's important to get your flu shot as an older person, RSV. So yeah, I'm leaving some wellness stuff also.
Sure.
So yeah.
So one of the things we've discussed for a while now, and even at the beginning of the collaborative, is how do we better blood pressure clinics and other programs that the collaborative are doing and may do. And there's always been historically a low intensity, even when the Alliance did them and BVNA, they would go out there every month and no one would show up, and then they would leave. And so one hand, it's you don't want to say we're not going to do it because everyone wants their blood pressure. Everyone wants to see it on the calendar, but no one shows up.
Right.
But the one person that comes every month, it's important to them, right? They have high blood pressure, they have health. It's that interaction. But trying to figure out ways to, can we stack programs together, like bingo day or the spaghetti luncheon? Can Jill The other, but also engaging to the organizations themselves and say, look at like, we're paying mileage for staff time to sit at a location for one person for a half hour and then they're gone.
Right.
And so it's figured out. So if the group has ideas, but Joe's going to connect with each town and try to figure out ways of making that better.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
I think that with the blood pressure, one of the things that happens is that a lot of people who have issues also have home monitors. Because they're
Right.
becoming much more available, accessible, and affordable.
mhm,
And, if you are a senior and you're in any kind of care with that, the doctors actually pretty much make sure that you have one. So it's
Right.
just something to fit, to
mhm,
recognize that could be what's going on here
Right, but in
too.
that context, you might want to suggest calibrating. I mean, that bring yours in.
Exactly.
Right, so I have a-
Exactly.
yeah. I had a lady at the Lenox Community Center, she monitors her blood pressure at home, but she wants an actual person to take it.
Mhm,
I find sometimes those home monitors are a little higher, give you a higher reading.
Yeah.
mhm.
For whatever reason,
Well,
so
people
yeah,
don't always use them right. So
Right.
there's there might be an instruction module or, as you say, calibration
Yeah.
module, or there's might be other things that we can
Right.
do
Yeah,
too.
I was astonished, for one point, I was taking my blood pressure like every day. And I was doing completely wrong. I had no idea I was
Yeah.
doing it wrong. Yet
Mhm.
on the doctor's office was this really excellent graphic on how to do it. And
right,
it took me a minute to read this thing. And I said, "Oh, I'm doing that wrong. I'm doing that wrong. I'm
Mhm.
doing that wrong." And it really made an impact on the results.
Right.
I
I
was
wonder if
astonished.
people could bring in their blood pressure clinic or blood pressure monitor and
comparison.
do
Well,
like
that-
a
yeah,
education.
that's one of the things that that was what we were
Yeah, but-
saying. Anyway, yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, it's a
Great,
Right.
thank you.
yes.
Anything else, Joe?
Oh, so Heidi is not with us.
Right.
She decided that it wasn't a good fit for her and she's back at the hospital, so. Yeah,
So we'll be posting that.
Yeah.
and, we're gonna try to reach out, find some per diem folks
Mm.
that could help back up,
I did reach out to Stephanie Adler, she's
a
interested.
couple people,
Yeah.
just till we fill that, and I can resend the post to you, and it's fair, the hospital pays really well, and they have really good packages, so,
Yeah,
but it's, people need to, it is what it is.
It is what it
It's a
is.
competitive market out there.
Which is good for the
Yep.
profession, absolutely.
Exactly.
But it
But-
makes
It's a
it
bummer.
hard.
But
It is a
the
bummer.
she's great, and she still is, and
yeah,
luckily, we're sort of at the tail end of the flu season, so like it's not like in the middle of gangbuster season.
Right.
But we'll do the best. So if you know anyone, it's on the website. I'll pass it around and stuff,
Mhm.
and we'll go from there.
right. We had a great, I think, first flu/COVID clinic season. Still getting calls for homebound, which is great. I think we're up to 42 people now. We have tons of flu left. It's not too late to get a flu shot. So get the word out. I'm happy to go wherever. If somebody needs me to come to their house, I can meet them wherever if they work. After hours, we do have appointments set up in color that people can pre-register. But nobody's really taken us up on that. I do get phone calls every now and then. We do have the 5 to 11 bivalent booster available for kids. So we the thought was maybe offering for the 6 to 5 year olds, but.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months to 5 year olds. I don't, now it's just me. I'm not thinking no. The
Right,
CHP is offering that, so I'm referring people to the CHP van.
right.
Yeah,
Well, I think too, so we have the standing order to offer at the 6 month to 5 year old. So Dr. Kenny did sign off on the standing order. So technically speaking, we can do it.
right.
But it comes in vials,
Mhm.
right? And then there's gonna be significant waste if you don't group, was it
Right.
10 people?
I think it's 10.
10.
It's a multi-dose vial.
So
I
you
think it's
gotta,
10.
you gotta
yeah.
like either put people on a waiting list,
Right,
without figuring out a way to waste it. So I think we discussed initially, it's like, well, we're prepared to do it
Right,
if there's a need,
There's a
but
huge
if
need.
other people are doing it, it's not duplicated.
right.
right, exactly.
Right.
And through the Rural Health Network, that grant program, they just opened up the ability to offer $75 gift cards to the grantees. And so we've been working with the state vaccine program and Deb Phillips. We're going to yes, yep. And we're going to a training on Tuesday where we're going to learn how to manage the gift cards. And so I'm wondering if that will make a difference for families to help bring them in. So more on that. We're really excited to be able to have that option.
It's an interesting problem, though. One might be cynical and say, crap, I should have waited. Now I would have made $75.
Right.
But then, I mean, I think that's a bad incentive in that sense.
Is that gift card only for COVID? Is it for all?
For COVID.
Just for COVID?
Yeah.
Just booster or initial, does it matter?
I'm not, I don't think it matters.
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
just curious.
yeah.
I have to say, I agree. I think gift cards are a very bad incentive for people to do this. Yeah.
So is it that you guys don't, I mean, like, is the feedback that you would want us to try that to get
I
families
think if
in?
it's available and it's approved, you might just as well do it. I have a personal thing about it. I don't like the fact that they do it for the diabetes care. I don't know. It's just not.
Right, to pick out one thing at one point in time and reward somebody for it. I understand it's the laggard you're trying to get on, but it also can encourage that kind of behavior.
And it's free.
Well,
We're not paying for
yeah,
it.
we're not paying for it.
No, yeah, it's, yeah. So anyway, not worth spending a lot of time on it. I had one question about the report. And with the car seat program.
Yeah,
Not that Mount Washington has ever had any, but we're not on that list. Is that supposed
because
to?
these are just people that come from these towns that receive car seats. I'm not gonna list every
I
town.
see.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see,
yeah.
okay.
It's, yeah.
Because I saw all the zeros and I was like, well, if they were zeros, then.
No, it's just the people that participated from those towns.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's zeros in there because
October, I did none because we were busy with
Right.
clinics.
it's
yeah.
a 3-column cell, so
Right.
it's just one of those
I
things.
actually had somebody who I encouraged to come who needed them. And then she didn't sign up and then she complained that she went and bought one and it cost her like almost $200. And I
Yeah.
was like,
But you know what, for next report, maybe it would make sense to just list all the towns.
no, I don't, it's not important. It's just so I know how to read it. That's
Yeah. No, I'm just listing, what town, people from those towns participated.
But I thought the
Um,
report was really
Very
well
helpful. Right.
put together.
And I got a call from 18 Degrees up in Pittsfield and they referred somebody to me. A really nice immigrant family from. I don't even remember where they came from. They were so nice, so appreciative. Like the guy was ready to cry. I'm like, please don't cry because I'm gonna cry. You got a 2-month-old and a 3-year-old and they have no car seats.
Right.
They can't,
Oh,
so that I'm just like, and DCF has my name and number.
Vim does.
Them, yep.
Mhm.
I've given to the pediatrician's offices. And today I'm meeting with a lady, she's pregnant, she has 2 kids. Can't afford car seats. I'm like,
Here they are.
here they are, we're meeting today, so
Yeah, I think
it's
this is
great.
one of the more valuable programs. I really do. I think this is a dynamite program.
Thank you,
you.
Jill, for writing those grants.
Thank you.
Great.
They were easy. It was the easiest
Yeah,
grants
don't
I've ever
say-
written. I think if you apply, you're gonna get car seats no matter what. And then when I talked to the gentleman from the state, he's like, there's nobody in Berkshire County that is doing car seats. There really isn't any
You want
techs. I mean,
more.
yeah, there aren't any techs. And I think next grant cycle, I'm just gonna apply for the state ones. The ones I got from Toyota, they're even flow car seats, but they're not, the material's not the same quality. Have the same exact car seats through the state,
Mhm.
much better quality.
better.
I mean, there's the car seat is a car seat, but
Right.
Yeah, but
so.
Toyota's got a lot of money. They could have high quality.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I was really disappointed.
$65,000 car for a sedan.
Yeah, so, I definitely will apply for more
Good.
through the state. for
Yeah, the only
next-
downside is the storage.
The storage.
It's
The storage
pretty-
is in-
Some of the boxes are almost as big as this table,
They're
because there's
massive.
2 car seats, and even there's
Um,
one, so.
Well, I mean, in long term, as we build up staffing capacity, whether it be a nurse or inspector, or coordinator, get more and more people certified, then you can pull off these clinics, but
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right
a
now-
car seat clinic can be very physically challenging if it's just Jill. But
Right.
she's pulling out the car seat, she gotta put them in, like, she
Right.
goes to town on these things and like.
Russell and
I wish she was around when I had my kids, because I was like,
Struggle getting them.
But yeah.
Anything else, Joe?
Oh gosh, there was something else and I can't think of it.
We can come back to it.
I will think of it.
Okay.
Left my brain. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
How would somebody sign up for a homebound visit from you?
Just call me.
Is there a flyer that I can help advertise that service?
We could
or
make one.
how
Yeah, we'll
does-
make one.
Okay,
Definitely.
and then does Vim or the other doctor offices know that you're providing that service?
You
just to
know-
spread the- I'm sure that's something that's very time consuming.
Right.
And maybe you want it to kind of fly under the radar a little bit until you're better staffed, but.
So Jay and I, that was the other thing I was gonna talk about, was we're gonna start our clinic planning for next year, next week, and talk about. Who else we want to, get the word out to, and I did not really let the doctor's offices know that we were offering homebound, but that definitely, we're gonna let them know for next year.
And you mean this year?
Yeah, well, this year too, but I mean, no, we'll put out a big advertising, like,
Okay.
this is all of our clinics, homebound's available, and really get the word out for the homebound.
Yeah, and I think the homebound thing kind of happened organically.
Mhm.
As clinics were happening, people were approaching Jane and we were short staffed and we had to pull in tons of people to help and volunteers and I think at least from my perspective, started happening organically.
Right,
And, it was one person and they kind of talked to a family member, but in some cases. There's some challenges with homebound vaccinations too, when especially if Jill's got to go out. In East Bum by herself at a home that she's not familiar with. And
Mhm.
ideally, we should have groupings of nurses together. It's like we have,
Right.
Jane has gone, one of my staff members went
Yeah.
with Jill, just for that.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit of a staffing resource issue, but
But and I think the Council on Agings were the ones that referred a lot, so
Right.
there was some pre-vetting, but I do like, it is a really good idea to like. Maybe when we have two nurses, especially reach out and say, for your homebound. Population, this is a service that's available. It's a little bit hard because actually. Because like if someone from Pittsfield calls, we would have to decide how we're gonna handle that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go to Pittsfield. I referred them to
Mhm.
Pittsfield Board of Health, and there was somebody who was doing homebound for Pittsfield.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Would you like me to reach out to Elder Services to maybe collaborate? So like, I don't think Elder Services can do vaccinations.
Right, yeah,
So
you
if
definitely,
they're-
give
And like,
contact.
and then, loop it in with the senior centers too. So if there's
did.
an elder service appointment
Mhm.
scheduled with somebody, then maybe you can go and that alleviates you going into an unknown place.
Right,
by
yeah,
Yourself, I don't know, maybe that's way too much work. I fully support waiting until we have a second nurse to do this. because
Right.
This is so intensive, but just thinking ahead.
I think Lennox does
I'll-
that,
I'll call
but I've
Yes.
getting people I've sent to you.
right.
yeah, does the Alliance do homebounds and other?
No.
No.
Most of the state has a homebound vaccination program.
Right.
Berkshire County, like, like usual, it's a little bit harder,
Yes.
and there's not the density that makes it so that you can get six people or the minimum amount for them to come out here. So there are other ways of doing it. It's just a lot easier for them to call Jill and, so what really I think has been one of our more fulfilling programs. But I think when we're firing on all cylinders, I think then there's an opportunity to like collaborate with some of our partners in a different way.
Mhm. I did go to Beckett. I was contacted by the lead council on aging. So I reached out to Leslie and asked her, do you want me to do this? I'm opening up a vial of COVID anyways. And she was like, that's fine. So if, somebody's, I know that they're not, offering a homebound. And somebody's like, I really need this. I can't get out. I really have mobility issues. I will reach out to, whoever is covering that area. So.
The other thing that we identified as an issue for the, not issue, but like as something we're not doing as well is Spanish speaking people.
Mhm.
So we have the flyer, it was put into Spanish, great. But at the bottom it says, call Jane Smith, right?
Hola, that's about it.
And so then I took a deep dive and like went to some of our community partners that have services. Including them, and Ben's like, absolutely, we'll help register our population, but there is across the board capacity issues for supporting people who aren't
English
native
speakers.
English speakers. And so so I've started going to the basic meetings, which is Berkshire. It's supporting the immigrant community. Deb put me in touch with them. And so I'm hoping that, especially by next year, but hopefully sooner, we will have a plan for on the Spanish flyer, for instance, having not only a number that has a Spanish speaking person on the other end, but also who already knows who we are, already has the link. So someone just has to say, I would like to sign up for this clinic on X and X a date, and they're not having to be talking 211 that's like, okay, is this Boston? And they're like, no, this is Berkshire County.
One of the things that you might think on is that during the JCO inspections that I was on, hospitals have to have the list of translators readily available. And would that possibly
So
be
we
a
use
way?
phones, we used a lot of phone interpretation, even when I did post-op care.
Right,
people
but they,
went home.
right, but they,
It
but
was
what,
a phone.
So we have reached out to, we've collaborated with Fairview on this, and
Yeah.
they've been actually a great community partner to
yeah,
to translate the flyer. But again, like, it's not Fairview or VIM's responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support all the population.
no, but they have
I understand.
volunteers,
Right.
and they may be able to go to their volunteers and say, if you're interested in
Mhm.
volunteering,
That's a good idea.
you know,
Yeah.
that's where I
Right,
was
could be
going with
user
it, not for them to
volunteers
do it,
or-
but
Yeah.
they have a resource to that community
Yeah.
or those communities.
Okay.
It's not just Spanish.
No, it is some of the other languages. So
Yes,
anyway,
you
that's
will.
something that's something we're actively working on. And that's all I have to say about that.
And I only have one comment. The only reason I'm gonna say is because Mike Hugo's on this call. DPH needs to be all in on equity and inclusion with other populations and whatnot. You know, one example briefly I'll say is our tobacco program. They've been pushing for years about racial equity, inclusion, whatever. It's in our work plan. We have to do work on that with our tobacco program. But yet, when we need translation and regulations, for example, DPH doesn't have the resources. And so like, rather than programs constantly behind the 8 ball trying to determine resources with health equity and inclusion,
Over,
DPH needs to put resources aside to be all in to help us.
Yep.
Right, because we're all solving the same problem, so if it's solved centrally, that's helpful. All right, thank you both. And if there are other things, you can raise your hand again. Topics, BPH capacity assessment results, next step. We talked a little bit before the meeting started about that, but we need to go over it for those of you who were not here earlier.
So I did, and Mike, do you want to go ahead and start this conversation and then?
Yeah, and I apologize. I had my I was muted and had my camera off there for a couple of months. I would had to be on another phone call. So anyway, here I am. The capacity assessment, you will not hear anything probably until March at this point. You will have an opportunity between now and March. I think it's looking like mid-February that they're going to come out and meet with each of the groups and then do their final analysis. They want to hear from everybody what they'll present their preliminary findings to you and then ask you for your input and then go back and give it one more review and then come back with a recommendation. So you're going to have some input into how the decisions are going to be made by DPH, which I think is crucial. And they will schedule something, and I think it'll probably be Antonella that will come out. I'm sure you've all met her at this point, but she will probably come out physically, spend some time there with you, and tell you what they think. You can tell her what you think, and then she will go back and one more time so you'll have something by March that'll be definitive that they're saying. That's what they're saying now. Don't shoot me. I'm the messenger.
So Mike, I talked to Amy Petrowski yesterday and,
Yep.
and so she was right on with what you were saying. I think February 20th, they're gonna start scheduling them, the appointments. And, one of the things that we want to do with the group is make sure that we have some educated guess of when we're all gonna be available, because there's gonna be a requirement, my understanding is there's gonna be a requirement for every town to have a representative at that meeting, which I think makes a lot of sense, right? And so they're gonna be doing them at 10 and 2. And so, like, I think it would be good at some point for us to talk about, like, if we have the opportunity, would we prefer a 10 or a 2? Are there days that there's members that just can't make it, and just kind of like take out all of the stuff that we know isn't gonna work, days and times that we know aren't gonna work, so that we can move quickly to schedule it with the state when it finally comes out. So that's what I have to say about that.
And unless you're statistically the loser, who would be defined as the very first group that's going to be talked to by the state, there's a very good chance that I will have sat through a number of these before they get to you. And there's a lot of questions you're going to have that they won't answer, that they can't answer, that you're not going to be comfortable asking them. But I will be attending as many of these as I can, and Cheryl will also, in order to try to get a bead on what they're looking at, so that I can get to you guys kind of like, I've seen the test. Here's what it says. What happens. 'Cause
Thanks, Mike.
that's our function. We're MAHB. We don't work for the state. We have a contract with them, but we don't work for them. And our allegiance is to make sure that you guys get whatever you can from this program. So we can run, I don't know if you want to call it a dress rehearsal or a cheat session, but it's basically the same thing. We can get together before that. Like I said, unless you're the first one they choose, and we don't have any bead at all on what they're going to be doing. But I can help you to prepare for that meeting once I see what they're looking at with other groups.
Right.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else on that topic? Okay, 2023 priorities and goals. This is not this working document that we talked about earlier. We still have to kick that can down the road. Operational.
Like a long time ago, like early on, like we had Jane, Jill, and Amy, when she was with us, had carved out a whole spreadsheet of things, but so much has changed since then with respect to the capacity assessment, potential change in work plan. And then we have an actual work plan that Rebecca and many of us worked on, which we're still running on, which we're in really good compliance there. And so, I know that there's conversation about trying to figure out ways to set priorities and goals for the collaborative, and Rebecca had asked to be on the agenda, and it's really just, from my perspective, it's things are like constantly evolving and changing. And so, like, and I'm always speaking for myself, it's like we don't know what the capacity assessment looks like. They may come back on different priorities and goals. There's the core functions that we all have to do, like the minimum standards. Like, for example, some towns aren't part of tobacco control. Tobacco control is a core function. They may reopen the tobacco RFR to allow unfunded towns in, making sure all inspections are done, enforcement's done, nurse program. So there's all these like core things that some of us are doing and some have to catch up.
So I have something that I think fits in this category, which is not one of the core things or whatever, as I understand them from your comments. But the question is, how do we look at health emergencies and determine that we need some coordinated action or position? The case in point, as you know, was the high flu and COVID rate in the elementary school. Should we have a mechanism when we start to see numbers of some sort rise to say, hey, let's get together and figure out if we should take a position on this, if we should make a recommendation? We really don't have a mechanism except our monthly meeting. And there was frustration over that, justified or not.
Mhm.
But it just seems to me that this is a good thing to think about and figure out what those triggers are, how we activate ourselves to come to a position. I'm not saying that what the results would be of any sort of response, but just to be actively thinking about it, should we have gone back to that little education interface group with the principal, should we have whatever, but we don't have a mechanism. So I think one of my priorities for 2023 would be trying to figure out how we measure and react to stuff. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, because you don't know what's going to come. It could be something very rapid, a flood that we suddenly need to worry about trying to deal with resources on, or something more insidious and slower creeping like COVID or RVS or whatever that is. So that's my contribution to that.
Mhm. That's a great idea.
Anybody else have something that is on their mind in that category? And this can go on. It's not that I'm sure this is the only time we're going to do this, but if you have other thoughts over time about how we might improve what we do and without overburdening ourselves with procedures and committees or whatever, but if there are things we ought to be thinking about, we ought to be thinking about. So let us know.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that working document until you just mentioned it, and that, I think that's probably a really great starting place for to just kind of itemize priorities for 2023. I mean, there's a lot that's been completed. So I think within that working document, we can bump things up, push things down. So maybe for our February meeting, we can bring that back to the table and just do a quick presentation on what's been done and give everybody a round of applause. And then I think my intention for bringing this to the agenda, and yes, like I think in the next year, so much is going to change so quickly with the capacity assessment and then funds getting funneled through the collaborative, and then we can really expand and dream big. But getting to the essence of the collaborative and the nursing program, I think there's some very simple things we can put on a goal and priority list for the coming year. And obviously that's very dependent on getting a new nurse. And I think that's a great priority. Number one, let's get a new nurse and let's figure out how to retain that person. And I hope that would be an easy one to kind of just check off. And then maybe we can talk about, a homebound plan. And like I said, I'm more than happy to reach out to elder services to figure out how to collaborate with them and Councils on Aging, and get that program not necessarily up and running, but just more
Official.
yeah, and where folks know about it and they can utilize it if they choose. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about this in a very simplified form. And yeah, once we learn what the capacity assessment means for the collaborative, then we can dream big. But very doable things.
I guess what I could offer, it's a 3-day weekend, hopefully everyone's taking the day off. I can resend the current work plan as it's laid out. It shows the status, what we've completed. And then somewhere in my folder is the working doc, and I'll resend it to everybody. And we can refresh everyone's mind and see where we're at and where we can go, definitely.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Sustainability Committee, what?
Yeah, so we did a few meetings ago establish the subgroup, which is me, Jordan, Rebecca, Ellie, and I think from my perspective, we want, there's always going to be a series of subcommittees as we advance, whatever it is. And the goal is to kind of like get together and think like long-term planning. How do we sustain the program, to make sure we're heavily relied on PHE and potentially capacity dollars. And but how do we sustain it over a long period of time? And so like, I was hoping by this time, like we would be seeing like what our vaccine reimbursement would look like, so we can sit down and say, okay, here's what the towns are funding for the vaccine program, here's the revenue generated, and we're always gonna be meeting on how we're gonna spend those non-PHE dollars, right? So the goal was to like get together and start to put our heads together. And then, you know, obviously the vaccine thing happened, and then we got short staffed and tri-town stuff, and it got away from me a little bit. So maybe before the next meeting, we can get that group together and just establish, without getting into data, because we don't really have a lot yet, and maybe just establish like priorities and goals for that group, and then report back. And then there's like a really long lag on the vaccine reimbursement, and we still, I mean, we pumped out some serious vaccines the first year. My anticipation is going to be that we're gonna have a good chunk of money, but I don't know what that is yet, because like with the Medicare, and they do it, and they have to bill the insurance company, and that takes forever. And so like, it'll be helpful to know, like, once we get through the first cycle, like what
And
that
what the
end.
cycle actually is gonna be.
Yeah, and that's why it's like,
Yeah.
the problem with the vaccine, you know, like the Alliance they've been doing it for a long time, so it's just like, it's like this constant flow happening, right? They private purchase, money comes in later, they private, it just keeps coming in. Like, we're a little bit behind, because like, for example, like, we have to purchase next year's vaccine
Now.
this fiscal year, right? And it keeps going and it keeps going, so we're heavily relied, a large chunk of the town money is for the vaccine program, and we spent a lot of money on per diem nurses and computers and supplies, and so, but as we kind of get in the groove of things, you know, we'll have extra resources when those things come up. So like, if we get $80,000 a year, that's great for the collaborative, then we can figure that out, right? How to prioritize that. And at least my vision was like, okay, here's our vaccine revenue, here's the PHE, here's this. Can we come up with some sustainable ways of keeping us moving, so we're not always behind the 8 ball?
So who is the chair of that group? Who will call it together?
Well, I don't think
At
there's a
least
chair
the
yet.
first time.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll just maybe send out a Zoom call. We can establish that.
Great.
Well, and so when I was doing the minutes for that, I couldn't tell who was on this side of the table that said that they would be on it. Now I know it was Ellie. I know that Jordan was gonna ask Scott and Uncle, like. And so I wasn't,
Scott, your uncle?
I thought Jordan did say he wanted to. I think it's
are you
for
okay with that, Jordan? So I just
Permission from the boss.
So Rebecca, Ellie, I think it was me. Is it 4 of us? I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
I would like to be
Well,
at those
you should.
meetings,
Yeah, you should.
and then that will be 5 and it won't be a quorum
Yeah,
still.
yeah, you should. Yeah.
And I might try to find out if Alfred can start sending someone as a representative so that I can step down as a representative, because as the coordinator, like, I can't like recuse myself every time so that there's not a quorum, you know what I mean?
Good
I have a
point.
question about maybe one of our goals. How are we set up for administrative support for all of these things? Because currently, I can imagine that you guys are pretty pressed and your department is really. So I think one of our priorities is going to be that we have to have some administrative support.
Yeah.
Just the nursing part alone
Well,
is huge.
yeah, we'll figure that out. So like,
Well,
we
I think we should prioritize figuring it out.
yeah, and I would just say like, look at like, we're very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate that the town of Lee is our fiscal host, not only for Tri-Town, but for the collaborative, and they're pretty good to work with. You know, there is work that happens behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
that
And
we
and I
don't-
think we can't just keep assuming that that's
It's
okay.
and so
I think we
like,
need to start working to being on our own feet here.
and
And if that has to be part of our budget.
yeah, it's
Then it should be.
but you know, like a perfect example, like I'm putting in significant time because we're cobbling up Jane's position. That's a priority. I can't burn the candle on both ends. You know, my assistant director processes all the invoices, for example. We have the town accountant, the town treasurer. There's a lot of like in-kind things that are happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're very lucky for that, but like, you're
Well, we
right.
won't be able to accomplish all of that the right way.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna depend on a lot of help along the way on that, but I think we should start, you know,
Aiming
paying
for it
attention
more,
that this is a big chunk.
Well, and even like, if we are able to eventually get everyone on, every town that wants to be on online permitting, one system or the other, that's another mechanism of like keeping those turnovers or not, maybe not turnovers, but keeping those permits and the boards up to date on like, on making sure that the permits are being issued possibly, if we have the right person but all of these pieces are gonna kind of come together. And I think that that's the work that we have to do, is to try to figure out
How to make that happen.
how to make it happen
Right.
based on who we have at the time and as well as what we think is an ideal situation.
Yeah, we're laying the foundation, but there has to be a sustainability piece that's hopefully coming as we put.
Well,
It's like a puzzle.
frequently administrative ends and secretaries tend to not be included in the beginnings. And I'm speaking as, you know, having fulfilled that for a long time in a lot of different positions. It's something that we are in a position to like start from the ground and say,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of activity,
There's a
like
lot of
whether it's
activity.
MHOA
Yeah.
reimbursements, there's a lot of processing things that we never talked about that
Right,
happens.
right,
Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
great.
That was it.
Perfect.
Okay, opioid updates, the settlement next steps.
So Deb Phillips is on, as well, and I believe possibly, to speak on this. But I will tell you, we were able to meet with MEHB, who did a great job of helping us understand what steps need to happen for this opioid money to even get spent, no matter where it's gonna get spent, but how it's gonna get appropriated and how it's gonna get spent. MAHB has worked on draft language. They have a white paper that they're finalizing the draft, and so that will be made available. And so basically with the South County Opioid Working Group, they are focusing in on going to the select board and making the ask for the recovery center. They have a 2-page thing about what the recovery center does, and they're in the process of adding on the ask, which is what's missing right now. And so what's going to end up happening is they're going to be kind of in charge of that select board piece, or they're going to be supporting that. What does that mean for us? What we can do, that's all of the select boards. Yep, and they actually have a calendar with the different dates on there for all of the different select boards. So what that means for us is our role will be, and some of us have already done it with our boards of health, right, is to support that this money gets spent. And if your board of health, my Fauci pen,
Wondered what that was.
if the individual board of health would like to see it go to the recovery center, which is what we're strongly advocating for, because that is a piece that is not anywhere else in South County, to make a recommendation to the select board. And so we feel like that recommendation is really what our work is around, making whatever recommendation your board is going to make. And then also on the back end, with the MAHB support, I feel like we'll be able to help the town know, like, for instance, that money has to get put into general fund. That money can only come out of general fund. There's 2 options. One is it can be put in a special appropriation fund. I think that's what the words are.
It was, that's a good enough way to, I'm sorry, I don't know why I jumped in there. I was thinking it's not sustainability, it's like a revolving fund.
It's like a special revenue
It's a
account.
special
Yes.
revenue account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like our program has a special revenue account. So it
You're
doesn't
trying
go
to
to
think of
town meeting.
stabilization, Rebecca.
Stabilization.
Stabilization. And so that's one article that needs to be put on the town warrant, is to create a fund. And then there's a second warrant that needs to say to put the money from the general account they would establish the fund, put the money for the first 3 payments into the fund, and then they can make another article to take it out. And either have it be according, no, it's not that.
No, because that's not the way our stability.
That's gonna be fun.
I'm not doing a good job, Mike. I'm
Okay.
butchering it.
No, I think, no, you think you're doing a good job. I'm jumping
But
into.
we're gonna lay it out. So that it's very clear, but I do think that there's gonna be some outreach that the opioid group and myself will be doing. To make sure that it's as easy as possible on that back end.
Okay, but the money that is gonna be coming to be in these these accounts is going to be coming from the settlement, not from the town budget.
Yes.
No, it isn't coming, it's going into general.
Then they move it. Then they
It's
move it.
Right, but I mean, but
The
essentially,
origin.
right, the origin of the money is
Yeah.
coming from the settlement.
Yeah.
So it is not generated under the tax
Doesn't matter.
You did fine, Jane.
rate.
No,
I
you
did that. Because you have no idea.
So here's my
We're gonna
perspective.
need help training on
Yeah.
that.
So anyway, so
Well, especially if they want to do it, which is coming
Well,
up in,
so
we're meeting
spring.
here's the
this week for our budget.
So here's the important part to understand is that the funds are being put into the general fund and they either need to put them into a stabilization fund or they need to appropriate them this year. And so there is gonna be some work and some
But we
updates on
can't
how to do that.
appropriate them this year because they weren't in the budget.
So
No, that's what, you, at the town meeting in May, you're gonna, that's the opportunity to appropriate from fiscal year 23. The funds that have already been
yeah,
received.
yeah.
Even though it's also for fiscal year 24, you're having a town meeting, you can do it within this fiscal year.
I'm gonna jump in because we don't have a lot of time right now, but I was also equally as confused as you are. And so we had a meeting with Cheryl Sabara, Mike Hugo, and some others from MAH, whatever. And whatever sorry, Mike, but there's gonna be documents that's gonna lay this all out and cerebrally, it's very confusing,
Mhm.
but I think once it's bullet pointed out and like in practice. It sounds like it's going to be very, very simple. I think that the legwork ahead of time to make it simplified for select boards is probably gonna be the most heavy lift piece of it. And yeah, and maybe this is not the right time because we don't have a lot of time, but Sheffield and Mount Washington, you've already expressed that your select board is probably going to be.
Our board has already recommended a letter. I'm just waiting for us to get together to write that letter to the select board to make sure that it was
I think
accurate to recommend this. My only concern with the time frame is that we are meeting now with the finance committee like this week and February, twice in February.
So it's happening in January and February.
Right, so this needs to be able to go to the finance committee, not necessarily the select board right away, because they are independent.
It's just.
No.
Well, all right.
Okay.
Needed to-
We're all in over our head
Yeah.
right here, except maybe.
We
Jane.
need
And
to
I
have it.
think we need to get the documentation, once it's completed, the promise, and I hope you're right.
Yeah.
is that it's gonna be.
So
good.
Jane,
Yeah.
if whatever documents that you get from the rural recovery, like, for example, we're gonna meet, Lennox is gonna have a meeting. So like I think our role for the Board of Health is like, get us the ask. The Lennox Board of Health is gonna endorse it or not endorse it, and then just pass it along to the select board and let everyone else do the work. Because warrants, all that stuff with warrants, I know each town's different, but the select board sets the warrants and all this other stuff. I'm not even gonna get into that kind of stuff. I'm gonna let you put the ask out there.
Okay.
We're supporting the funding to go to rural recovery, and like,
Mhm.
I'm not even gonna get into it.
Okay,
It's not a Board of Health budget thing, it's a town
Right,
meeting
right.
situation.
And all we can do is.
Yeah,
do
thank you.
anything as possible. Okay, whoa, all right, that was an exciting one. Prescription disposal logistics.
So-
Again, the state needs to do something.
Well, so we're working with the sheriff's office. It's hopefully, we have a champion in the sheriff's office who's hopefully
Which sheriff's office?
the sheriff.
So-
Berkshire County Sheriff.
Okay.
To emulate Hampden County's program where they kind of take the lead. In the meantime, we were able to get the funding or we're gonna be paying for the police in Great Barrington to drive it, the time for the 2 officers to drive it to get incinerated in the meantime, and so I think we'll see good progress on that.
And there'll be a regional program that we'll have to work on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So it means that other police departments.
Yes.
will Deliver it.
We're not sure entirely if the sheriff's office, I think in Hampden County, goes to each town and just picks it up and there's a process.
I see.
Ideally, we want a program, Pat, where, whatever, twice a year, we coordinate with all the police departments, we get all the
Do a sweep,
prescription
yeah.
drugs cleaned up, picked
Yeah.
up, and then dropped off. It becomes this program
Well, that's
for our collaborative.
That's what we did for years.
Yeah.
But
And then
there's,
they've got these mini grants that the police departments could bring it up to community eco power. And unfortunately, now that they're closed, they lost their, so,
Right,
there'll be more to come on that.
Okay.
great,
Mm.
thank you. Public overdose emergency kit.
So the reason why I kept this on the agenda is we are getting 10 opioid emergency kits for South County. It's actually gonna mostly be in Great Barrington. It looks like these initial 10. But there is interest in funding and having more of these throughout.
This is actually a kind of box for placement in a
Mhm.
restaurant, kind of.
Yeah,
setting.
and it has like information, it's got naloxone, it's got, and it's got like the CPR masks.
Mhm.
And so, and the harm reduction and the recovery center are really trying to get warm handoffs to go into restaurants and do training and even just give them like a supply of naloxone to have on hand at restaurants. So what that means for us is that, is there a way, and would these towns be interested and willing to share that information with their establishments, like their food establishments, because we are the keepers of all of the emails. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that we give our email list out, but like, would we, if they came up with something, would we be willing to pass it along and say, if you're interested in having naloxone on site, let us know, or let someone know, and they will come out and do a training and leave a supply of it. And if you think about choke saver is a non-breathing issue, overdoses are a non-breathing issue. So we've even talked to BCC about maybe attaching a little bit of an naloxone training at the end of choke saver classes,
Love that.
and everyone leaving with the supply for the restaurant. So especially event locations, a lot of them are rural, and it's going to take time for first responders to get there. So that's
Great,
more to come.
terrific. You haven't been busy at all, Jane. I don't
No.
understand what you
Sits
do.
around these bonbons.
Sharks. I got from one disaster to another.
So we have, I think, like, isn't it like 9 or 10, Rebecca? Like,
So it's like pretty incredible based on where we were 2 years ago with locations for shark kiosks. So I think
and
we finally battled the NIMBYism.
Mhm, mhm.
When are they coming?
they are here. And so we are working with harm reduction. We're getting 5 of each of small, medium, and 1 gallon. So quarts, like portable ones, quart ones and gallons size that will fit into these kiosks. We already have the groundwork laid to get it picked up. We're approaching Otis next week to see if we can have it in Otis. And so it's very exciting. We have some interns working on some stickers that we're going to put on there that will give more information of how to get rid of your sharks. So it's very exciting.
They be deployed.
Well, we can. I mean,
I keep getting that question from my board. They all.
I thought that Mount Washington was against. having
They
any
do not
sharks.
want one in Mount Washington, but.
So,
I want one nearby.
No, it's me that doesn't want it in Mount Washington.
Okay.
I will do it.
so,
But-
I would say probably February.
Oh, good.
I would say not by the meeting in February, but certainly by the meeting in March, it will be fully.
Operational.
And I think it will start being operational before, but it's just, like we have Rebecca has a sticker that we can use for the
Oh,
one,
yeah. Get that for you.
in, in Otis. And then we're just gonna start doing a public campaign about it. That's a little bit like I'm a little uncomfortable and outside my wheelhouse, and so that's why we're using the interns.
Mhm.
But I think what we shouldn't delay launching the program too much, as long as we can get that basic information, and we don't have to reinvent.
Do like
the
a
wheel.
soft launch and then like,
Right.
and I can do we can do a press release where the locations are, and
They're not all online at the moment, but there's one in Alfred, there's one at the Rural Recovery Center.
we have one that's sort of there.
And then where did that random one end? up?
Otis.
Otis, it went to Otis.
Well, no,
Okay,
we're hoping that it will go to Otis. If it's
Okay.
not, then Sandusfield's open to it.
okay.
Otis is just a little bit more of a population center
Yeah.
and a little farther out there. And so.
And they
So
have a
it's
very
still really
robust senior program out there too, by the way.
Okay, so,
Huge.
and then, I
Otis
don't know,
does?
Otis.
and we're gonna find out if also, like, we could also publicize. So we got a certain amount for Jill to have when she does her clinics or her blood pressure clinics. And so we're looking at seeing if we could maybe have like an exchange, a needle exchange, no, like
Sharps container.
a sharp skin exchange at the senior centers. So that someone can bring it in, and we just need to find out what the logistics are. If it's in a approved container, can Jill put it in her car and just add it to our sharps? Those are the types of things that we are working on.
There's so many diabetics out there. When I was a phlebotomist up at the lab, they would call and ask if we could dispose of their sharps for them. I'm like, sorry, we do
And
not
they
accept
can't.
outside
They
sharps.
can't, right.
So this is another avenue for people. If they couldn't make it to the harm reduction ban, or they can't make it to a town that has a sharps kiosk, I would, be another avenue for people to get rid of their sharps, as long as they're in an approved container.
Ours, we did
Yeah.
a medication roundup twice a year, and you'd have more people coming in.
Right.
In Tide containers or
Yeah.
anything, and they were
Yeah.
all diabetics, or some of them for their
That's right.
animals.
No,
Yeah.
Not just diabetic, there's just so many,
Yeah.
there's cholesterol medicines,
Yeah.
there's so many things now
Mhm.
that, and
Oh,
our
yeah.
people all have them in their approved containers. And just to be clear, the reason that I don't want a kiosk there is that we do not have any place that is monitored. And we are having a lot of trouble with vandalism,
Mhm.
and I can't take that responsibility.
Well, that's fine.
So,
Yeah.
But I just want to be
But like-
clear as to why we're not doing it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
because it's going, I just fished a bunch of them out of recycling.
and that's why I was against it for so long. And actually, the kiosk that we got was an outdoor kiosk, but it's
Right.
inside.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's full.
but I will
But
tell you,
our town hall isn't open,
but I
so.
will tell you that they're really sturdy. Rebecca can, they're pretty heavy. I thought they were a little heavier actually. But like, they're heavy duty, there's no way to get in there. So it's just one of those things, like, we're gonna hopefully have a successful launch, and other towns will say, how can we get one of those? That's our, maybe not Mount Washington.
They're
but
small.
other towns.
That was my thought, was the sharps. That was
A quick
during my
question.
piece, so we
Right,
just covered
great.
it. So,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Rebecca had a
A quick
question.
question before we move on. What is an approved canister? Is it the biohazard label? Is it like the snapshot?
So the official word on that is that it's one of those red containers and snapshot. That being said, unofficially, there, and DPH has wording for this, like heavy duty plastic, so like you wouldn't want to put it in a water bottle that's not thick enough. But like there's guidance, and there's actually on the
Liquid detergent
Tide
bottles.
Yeah.
They're loud, but the problem, but that's.
I think you have to like seal it with like duct tape.
Yeah.
It has to be, they have to.
And do you
Still
remember when, before DEP changed the groundwater discharge permit, that when people said, where can our water softener go? And we were like, I can't tell you where it can go because you need a groundwater discharge permit, but it just can't go here. And DEP finally changed it so that people could just discharge it outside. It's like an unofficial thing, like.
The biggest thing that's changed is the actual physical syringes. Is that so many now of them are the single dose, self-administering, and they're not syringes the way we used to think of syringes.
Right.
So these don't poke through containers.
Yeah.
Because they're retracted.
But even still, the Tide bottle is sufficient.
That's really good.
And then the other thing that we might do is like an educational campaign for DPW workers who oftentimes come across sharks and whatnot. So that will be continued.
Quick question on our vendor who picks our stuff up. Will they pick up these other containers? If we put a protocol out there and say, well, if it's spill proof, whatever. Will they pick that up or will they only pick it up if it's in the proof?
So I asked them that question and they were like, well, what they really want to avoid is having loose needles.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but it goes into the kiosk, there's a box, there's no way for needles to, or there's no way for things to spill over the way that it's designed. So essentially, they come, they close up the box. And they take the box out. So no one's going through
They
that.
can't actually see the containers when they do it.
But they're not going to say officially, yeah, just use Tide.
Yeah, in writing. Yeah.
But as long as it's not presenting a hazard, it was one of those, like, and we can't officially say, just use your Tide containers, right? Our messaging is gonna be like,
Yeah.
we have approved containers available to the public. But if needed, these types of things also work. I think that will be enough to make it so that our vendors are not upset about it.
Ellie has a point
Okay,
of protest.
the 200 syringes that I pulled out of the recycling
Wouldn't happen if you had a
Were-
sharps container.
were in Tide or
Right.
liquid
exactly.
detergent bottles.
Exactly,
And
and
they
that's
took the liquid detergent bottles and they threw them in the recycling.
which would not happen if you had a sharps container.
Except,
So anyways,
Okay.
I will advocate for.
but that's why I'm saying, I don't think allowing people to use non-sharps containers is a good idea. Because that becomes a problem for disposal, because the only reason I saw the bunch of them was because they had tape on them. And I
Yeah.
said, why?
I mean, I would endorse like,
So-
at least the Tri-Town one. I wouldn't be happy with.
Yeah.
Any container, so what
I
my,
think our official word is gonna be that these, and we're gonna be providing.
Yeah.
cool,
Okay,
awesome.
community partner updates.
I guess my only thing is, we came across an MHOA housing training, and it should be free for anyone that's part of PHE. So if you sign up for it, just make sure that you put in, I don't know what they asked you to confirm if you were part of a
Yeah,
which whatever.
I think it was which one.
And we are, the collaborative leadership is still meeting with the Alliance monthly, and we're trying to figure out like a housing training for 101, and I'm really pushing and advocating that there be some type of training for boards of health.
Right.
That seems to be missed a lot all the time because we go through with you. Like I coach my boards when we have those issues, but I think there's multiple levels of that,
Decide on the job training.
well, there's the inspector piece, but like boards, my board members don't do inspections. They've accompanied me, but they don't actually do the inspection. So there's interest there, but like, what do board members do when it comes to appeals and
Right.
records and all this other stuff? And I think they're working with, Charlie on that, and
Right.
also how to actually fill out a criminal complaints district court, but like housing court and other stuff. But yeah, and so I think we're pushing on that, and we're still communicating with the whole resource thing with the intern on the homelessness and all that other stuff, but.
I don't think they know about that.
So, yeah, so some of us are, well, we've been talking about the BCBOHA meetings about trying to figure out a mechanism, to try to work with all the social service agencies. But our intern that we're getting she's going to be focused heavily on South County on asset mapping and resource information.
And interfacing.
interfacing,
with the seven person in North
Yeah, and then Laura may try to get an intern, which may help countywide to try to figure this out, but it's really having the resources at our fingertips as health agents and boards about how we can support and make
Right.
sure the right information gets disseminated.
Yeah, it's good to have a sense that we're sort of at least at the edge or a little bit ahead of what we are pretty sure is going to be coming in terms of homelessness and lack of housing in general. So those are good developments. This is the document I was talking about, the articles of
Oh, yeah.
organization. we really need to try and move that up the
Mhm.
list at
Yep.
some point. And-
We have a draft.
No, I know we do,
yeah.
and it's impressive, and it takes a little bit of digesting to be able to appropriately react to it, so. If we know, big red letters, next month, we're gonna discuss if
We
the
can,
agenda
yeah.
allows, if there's a lot of stuff on it, and we can't give it time, but.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for feedback, but we haven't really gotten any feedback on that document.
Okay, be on notice, everyone, that you're expected to react to that. Citizens, do we have any citizens? No.
Nothing on
citizens.
Zoom, unless Deb wants to speak.
Deb?
Hey, Deb.
Hi, all. Thank you for letting me listen in. I think, it's a great connection that I just want to really maintain. So if you don't mind my sitting in on your meetings, it's incredibly valuable.
Thank
for the
you.
work we're doing together.
Anything you want to offer as citizen speak time or just listening?
Just listening today. Thanks, Jim.
Okay,
Jim, I have a couple of questions. Sure. Just regarding the nursing, is there about a part-time nurse? If there's somebody who's just
It's a
looking.
real great question. So basically, we've had this internal discussion. We're supposed to talk about it and get feedback. So the core PHE is built around 2 full-time nurses because we don't want to be struggling with capacity in that realm. We've toyed with the thought anyway, of like, well, wouldn't it be great to have Jill full-time and a bunch of per diem nurses, like as part of that robust system, because we're gonna need them for the vaccine clinics. And I will tell you from my experience with hiring people for so long, Tri-Town has always struggled trying to find part-time work.
Okay.
Now, if we get lucky and find someone at 19 hours a week. But there's pros and cons with that because like sometimes they're not available on weekends and they can't get overtime because that qualifies for benefits. And then I just see like a lot of challenges.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
we're having trouble finding a full-time nurse with a robust competitive salary with benefits, by the way. And so like ideally, I would love to take that second nurse salary and break it down and have additional resources, but I think we should try to find a full-time nurse because like, I don't know about you folks, but like, I got about 25 years in this and I'm sick and tired of cobbling up resources that get staff. It's always been a constant struggle. Like Jane's got cobbled up things for her position. She's not even full-time and like we've done it through Tri-Town. It's like, this one's gonna get 2 hours out of tobacco, 3 hours out of this one. It becomes this thing. And it's like, if we're at a position where like, we have the resources to like really build sustainable staffing, we should try anyway, but I totally agree, Scott, it's to me, it's like, I just don't want to put so much pressure on one person that she cracks.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's a horrifying thought.
I've seen some fissures.
I'll make it
Together for a while.
But yeah, it's
Are we seeing any insurance reimbursements trickle in?
we got notification that they're processing the last quarter, but we haven't gotten the money yet. But yeah, I'm hoping when we meet, we'll know a little bit, but there's such a there's gonna be, I'm hoping that's like,
And do you know how much is gonna come in?
I don't know for sure, but it's very complicated, so
Yeah.
I'm still learning, so there's like, homebound's a rate. When Jill does a homebound, it's a rate.
Yeah.
Then there's a rate for private purchase, then there's a rate for the free stuff. And then we're getting free COVID shots, and then
How does that piece work? Because the COVID shots are free.
Yep.
So we get
There's no-
administrative fee for
for
giving it.
Okay, so it's an administrative
Yeah, yeah.
reimbursement, not
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah.
So basically, if we're getting,
Well, it is an insurance reimbursement
Oh.
for the administration.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good, because in my mind, I was like.
so we're learning and it's, but everything's in color. So what happens, and you can probably do it, I'll butcher this. So basically,
for it.
every lot number and everything we get for private purchase and freezing color, then it gets like ruffled up to the Commonwealth Med.
Yep.
Then they bill all the insurance, then they have all these different rates.
And it's gonna partially also depend on how good of a job that my department.
The input
Um,
goes, yeah.
of like making sure that the numbers were correct, and so there's just a lot of variables, but I mean, I think our goal is definitely to have it cover the cost of what we spent. I mean, there's, it was like an uncertain year, and so we just, I think. Like the good news is that we made sure that we were able to cover what needed to happen for Southern Berkshire County, and we'll be able to fine tune that. But part of fine tuning that will be like, okay, we need to. Well, this percentage didn't get billed correctly, so what can we do to like make sure we capture that? And just so everyone knows, no one pays, like. We had a lady come in and she had insurance, she didn't want to give it to us, she wanted, high dose, and then you like. Absolutely, so it's not about, it's just about covering the cost, and if we can also like. Get money back to, like, for instance, I would love to eventually have a situation we're able to subsidize. Foot care in the towns that aren't getting foot care, for instance, right? And like, so there's all sorts of different programs that could be made available, but we don't know what that extra funding is gonna look like.
So how good were we at guessing the quantities of vaccine?
It wasn't a guess, it was reports.
Well, you had to make an order.
I mean,
Oh,
the
I
purchase
see.
thing,
I mean,
it was
but
hard.
so we didn't know how much money or how many doses we were gonna be getting from the state. Because the state was like, oh yeah, we'll be able to give you all of your doses, and everyone else that we spoke to is like, don't count on it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so we ordered as if we
We're
weren't going
getting
to get.
anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so that's where some of the fine tuning is. Now we have the numbers for children
Right.
that we can go to the state. and-
Yeah.
So there's just gonna be, I think, the conversation that can happen, that should happen next year. Once we know, like after we've done our second year, so that we know if we're on track or not.
right.
And there was not a lot of data, like no one had numbers, even the VNAs and the health.
Right,
systems.
I remember.
We
talking about
begged, like, what do you have for numbers? What'd you do in Great Barrington? What'd you do in this town? Oh, we don't have anything.
it.
So we had this system when Amy was here and Joe was here, we had to take a stab
Right.
at
right.
like.
But you guys did pretty well.
No, we did.
We burned through all of the high dose and could have had more, but we
Right.
have a lot of regular dose. But
Oh,
that was, based
Regular
on
dose COVID.
regular dose flu.
Flu,
Flu, yeah.
all right, because COVID, we were pretty on.
COVID, you just order, like you order 300 doses, and when you get low, you just order more.
Right,
Yeah.
and we ended up in pretty close contact with that one, but the flu, we have a lot of. flu
We have a lot
right
of flu left over.
And our private vendor and the state has no historical record
right.
of competence with our program. They're like, well, we'll give you X to see how well you do.
Right.
now. Right.
And then, so as you build that up over time,
Right.
and also too, bear in mind that COVID shots may not be free forever. We may have to purchase those
Yeah,
at some point.
yeah.
Well, I think you guys did an incredible job on estimating that stuff, because it's better to be over than under.
And you never know, like some
Yeah.
years people don't want flu shots and then you're to over order anyways, because you don't know what people are gonna do.
And you're gonna get another shot, so to speak. I think you're gonna have another peak coming up. Again, with flu, we're seeing an awful lot of it. We're seeing an awful lot.
We have a lot of tests too, by the way. People want more tests, let me know.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Lots
And
of-
Band-Aids, Sansfield has a lot of
Band-Aids. I've been able to get masks. I've got children's masks coming out of
It's
my
free.
ears.
Right,
We
yeah.
have masks. If
Oh.
anyone.
You have masks, Deb?
Have masks.
Okay, good to know, because we didn't order any.
The
Oh.
only thing I
need
didn't
them?
get in this last shipment that I requested was, were pediatric masks. Did anybody else get? their-
We didn't order masks this last.
I
shipment.
got children's masks.
You did,
I
okay, so
can
I'll
give you some,
hit you
but
up.
they had.
I have-
I
somebody-
have quite a few I can give you.
Oh, good,
Okay.
because I ordered them because of Camp High Rock.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, so we're gonna do private negotiations after the meeting.
But yeah.
But yes, let's
Yeah.
trade whatever people need and others have.
I'll meet you on the-
Is there any other business for the meeting?
I have one more question.
Please.
What's the relationship on the opioid subject? Relationship with the mobile unit?
The van?
Yeah,
So just like,
the harm reduction ban,
yeah,
yes. They are.
update me on that, or how is that?
So the harm reduction
Working
ban
together with what we're
actually
doing.
is providing our base layer of of sharps containers, and we are very closely working with the harm reduction van. Like, for instance, there are liaison right now with Fairview to see if we can advertise that Fairview has a sharps. So the answer is we're very closely tied with them.
And that's active in the towns because we had to go through a process to. approve
Right,
it to be able to
right.
work in our
And the
town.
sticker that will go on the sharps container actually will have a QR code that links to the schedule for the harm reduction van. So like it, coming to,
Yeah, it comes to
it
Sheffield.
comes to Sheffield, and so that will be
Easily, yeah.
easily for people who can use.
And I need to contact because Sarah De Jesus said that we never applied for anything, which we did. And the harm reduction van has never come to Mount Washington because they said they were not told that we were on the schedule. So we need to know who to talk to.
It's Sarah De Jesus,
Yeah.
but there's also a state contact, I can forward it. But I will also tell you that the harm reduction van has been struggling right now because they don't have a heated space in which to store their van. And so there's a lot of things that can't freeze. And so the harm reduction van model has been really hard through the winter. And I would anticipate that starting in the spring, when we're no longer having to deal with freeze thaw cycles, that we'll see a more robust reemergence, but that has been a huge issue for them.
Because that was our kiosk. That was the decision that we made, was that because the van was gonna be coming up.
Yep. So once you vote
they would
on
be
it,
able to
you
take-
have
we've
to
already
then-
done that.
Okay,
We
but
already
listen,
sent all of
listen.
them.
Did you send it to the state? Because that's the final step, is you have to send
Right.
the approved minutes to the state, and maybe that's the step.
And there's a
He
kind-
told me I had to email her and we
Yeah. No, no,
emailed her.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I can loop back
We'll
around
work
with
that
you on it.
Okay. We're doing very well.
Okay.
Any other
No more
business?
questions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for asking that, because that was
Good question, Scott.
And I think we need to sit next to each other so you can just poke me and say, wait a minute, I'm not done. Thank you. The next meeting, unless somebody is gonna contest that, is February 10th, in person, as many as possible.
We're on my vacation.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second.
Second.
Anybody dare not be in favor? Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks,
very much.
everyone.
Thank
You.
All right.